Texas's hunting ranch empire, worth $1.3 billion, employs thousands and has fueled rural economies for generations. Until now. Ranches are collapsing under new laws. Multi-million-dollar herds are being quarantined. Banks are fleeing. And decades of family breeding have vanished overnight. But what sent the entire industry spiraling toward disaster, stunning leaders, and threatening a way of life? The answer is more explosive and urgent than anyone predicted. Across Texas, more than 1,400 high-fence hunting ranches stretch from the hill country to the South Plains, anchoring a rural economy that once seemed unbreakable. The numbers are staggering. Exotic game ranching alone pumps $1.3 billion into the state each year, making Texas the undisputed leader in private game operations nationwide. The deer breeding industry itself, focused mostly on whitetail genetics, has been valued at $750 million annually, with hundreds of millions more generated by guided hunts, lodging, and wildlife tourism tied to these operations. It is not just about headline revenue. These ranches are the economic backbone for thousands of rural families. Industry estimates show between 5,000 and 7,000 jobs depend directly on hunting ranches and breeding facilities. Roles ranging from guides and lodge staff to veterinarians, feed suppliers, taxidermists, and meat processors. In many small towns, property taxes, school budgets, and Main Street businesses rely on the steady cycle of hunting season income. When a single ranch books out trophy hunts for $10,000 apiece, or auctions off a single buck for $50,000, that money flows through local banks, restaurants, and hardware stores. The ripple effect is felt everywhere, from fuel stations and motels to church fundraisers. For generations, these operations have kept rural Texas afloat. Now, the scale of what is at risk is measured not just in lost revenue, but in the unraveling of entire communities. 3 generations have worked the same stretch of hill country land, building a reputation on record book whitetails and the promise of steady hunts each fall. Now, the family legacy is tangled in legal notices and bank deadlines. Last spring, a single positive test triggered a quarantine order. Overnight, every animal became unsellable. The ranch's main assets, once valued in the millions, are frozen by state order. The family accountant tallied the year's losses: 6 figures in canceled hunts, 2 breeding auctions with no buyers, and a line of credit pulled back by the local bank. The loan officer's letter spelled it out. Without the ability to move or sell deer, the ranch had breached its loan covenants. Insurance adjusters, citing new exclusions for chronic wasting disease-related losses, denied coverage for the herd. The eldest son, who once planned to take over, withdrew from the partnership. His siblings want out too, unwilling to risk their own savings on a business now labeled high risk by every lender in the county. With revenue halted and debts mounting, the family faces the reality that the land may not stay in their name. What began as a weathered ranch house and a dream could end with an auction on the courthouse steps. March 2022 brought a new reality to Texas hunting ranches. The Texas Administrative Code, Section 65.90, now required every deer breeder to test all animals over 16 months old that died, no exceptions, no waivers. Each test cost between $150 and $300, and for operations with herds in the hundreds, the annual bill climbed quickly into the tens of thousands. The law also mandated double fencing for any facility seeking to move deer, meaning 2 8-foot barriers with a 6-foot gap, all designed to keep captive and wild deer apart. For many ranchers, retrofitting miles of perimeter fence became a 6-figure expense overnight. The real blow came with the quarantine trigger. A single positive CWD test meant an immediate lockdown. No animals could leave or be sold, often for years. Ledgers showed the math. One quarantine could freeze millions in assets, halt all bookings, and leave families with mounting bills and no way to recover. Texas Deer Association leaders called the rules a death sentence for the industry, while state officials pointed to the need for strict containment to protect wild herds. The ledger and the law now dictated the fate of every high fence operation in the state. Medina and Uvalde counties now sit at the heart of Texas's containment map, where the effects of the crisis ripple far beyond the ranch gates. According to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department data, 85 breeder facilities are directly linked to the 2021 CWD outbreak, but the fallout has spread to more than 350 operations, now under restriction. Local officials describe a landscape transformed. Movement bans have turned once busy highways into quiet stretches, and check stations dot rural intersections, monitoring every harvested deer. The social fabric is fraying. In the past year, sheriff's offices in Medina and Uvalde logged a spike in trespassing calls and criminal mischief reports tied to fence-cutting incidents. Some activists, convinced that high fence operations threaten wild herds, have taken matters into their own hands, damaging barriers, releasing captive deer, and sparking confrontations with ranch owners. Tensions run high at county meetings, where landowners and wildlife advocates debate the future of the region. The pressure is not limited to ranchers. Small-town businesses feel the strain as bookings dry up and uncertainty clouds the coming season. Every CWD test in Texas runs through the Texas A&M Veterinary Medical Diagnostic Laboratory, where the process is anything but simple. When a deer dies on a ranch, certified collectors remove the obex or lymph nodes, label the sample with a unique TWIMS code, and pack it in formalin. Even before the sample reaches College Station or Amarillo, delays begin. Ranchers often hold samples for days while they wait to fill a shipping cooler, and shipping by ground can stretch the timeline further. Once the lab receives a batch, each sample is checked for proper labeling, flatness, and condition. Any mistake, smudged ink, a mismatched code, a curled tissue, can send the sample back or force a retest. Inside the lab, technicians run immunohistochemistry and ELISA screens. Under normal conditions, results can be ready in days, but during peak hunting season, the sheer volume of samples creates a backlog. Ranchers report waiting 4 to 8 weeks for final answers, especially if a result is flagged as suspect and needs confirmation from the National Veterinary Services Laboratory in Iowa. For breeders, every week in limbo means mounting losses. They allege that mishandling, cross-contamination, or paperwork errors have triggered false positives, locking down entire herds before federal labs can overturn the result. The lab director insists on strict protocols and national accreditation, but breeders call for independent audits and transparent retesting. In their view, a single slip in the chain of custody can destroy decades of investment and leave a ranch's future hanging on a lab report. The auction house floor once buzzed with the energy of bidders chasing legendary genetics. Now catalogs that used to list trophy bucks with Boone and Crockett, scores of 200 to 400 inches, are thin, and the room is half empty. In 2019, a top breeding buck might have fetched $100,000. By 2023, similar animals struggled to draw a bid deep. Sale data from the Texas Deer Association shows a 60% drop in average hammer prices since the Medina County outbreak. Prize does that once commanded $10,000 a head now go unsold, their bloodlines stranded behind containment fences. Auctioneers who once rattled off pedigrees traced through decades of careful breeding are left staring at empty pens and unsold lots. Pedigree charts that once promised a future for Texas trophy deer now read like obituaries. Years of selective breeding, millions invested in antler genetics, and the hope of creating the next record holder are all reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet, with no buyers left to care. Court dockets in Austin and Medina now list a growing stack of lawsuits filed by deer breeders and ranch owners against the state. At the center of these cases is a blunt accusation. Plaintiffs' counsel argue that when a single positive CWD test triggers a years-long quarantine, the effect is no different than a forced seizure. Herds are stranded, sales banned, and multi-million-dollar facilities reduced to little more than fenced pastures. One lawyer for the breeders holds up a foreclosure notice and a bank statement, showing how quickly a profitable operation can slide into default once movement restrictions hit. On the other side, the Texas Parks and Wildlife legal team insists these measures are necessary to protect the 5 million wild deer that drive the state's hunting economy. They point to the agency's statutory authority to act in the public interest, even if it means individual losses. With nearly half of Texas's hunting ranches projected to close within 5 years, if current rules hold, the stakes now rest with the courts. Every pending suit carries the weight of an entire industry, and the next ruling could decide whether these rural businesses survive or vanish from the Texas landscape. Texas now stands at a crossroads, balancing a billion-dollar industry against the irreversible spread of chronic wasting disease. The decisions made in Austin will shape rural economies, wildlife, and culture for decades. When livelihoods and entire ecosystems are on the line, inaction is a choice with lasting consequences.